Hello, back again. So the topic of today's video is going to be to do with is so full disclaimer. So for the next 6 weeks, basically, until the end of the World Cup, these short videos with like 5 to 8 minutes, they're pretty much exclusively going to focus on the World Cup. Because it's the biggest tournament, it's the biggest event in all the sports. It might be the biggest event in the world, period. Like, it might just be that. So why wouldn't I cover it? So any topics you want me to cover in relation to the World Cup, please comment in the video below, and I will, if it fits, I will look to cover it. I don't know if I'll be making daily content for the World Cup, but I'll definitely be making very regular content for the greatest tournament on earth. So the topic of today's short talk video timer set, is to do with conditions. So a friend of mine, Jordan, he made me aware of this. Because he just reminded me of it, because obviously in Qatar, obviously the conditions were quite a big topic due to how hot the country was, and obviously there's been cooling breaks in the sport, mainly since COVID. They had those little cooling breaks. Obviously, I'm sure they would have had them before, but they've just become more accepted since then. And it came to my attention quite notably that in American sports, obviously, there's a big thing. Part of the reason why home advantage matters is not just because of the crowd. I'm actually going to make a video about home advantage as well. But it's not just because of the crowd, it's because of the conditions. For example, the most notable one of this is Denver. So Denver is notably played at altitude. So anyone who has to visit the Denver Nuggets, they find it notoriously hard just because their wind tends to give out quite fast. Or say if you go somewhere, and obviously the same reason, like Denver Broncos obviously have the same thing, obviously it's different because it's not continuous the same way that basketball is. Where, as say for this tournament, obviously it's not going to necessarily impact in terms of the US's chance of winning, but it also is going to impact certain teams in terms of how it affects their fatigue for the rest of the tournament. So say, for example, if someone plays in Texas, in the middle of the country, that's going to be hot. If someone plays in Georgia, that's going to be really hot. If someone plays in Florida, it's going to be really hot. There's already reports of England struggling with the conditioning that they're going to have to take to do with there's already pictures of them sweating and basically just dripping buckets because of how hot and humid the conditions are. And that's going to be a big talking point. And the teams who play further west coast, closest to the ocean, California, places like that, they're going to have a much better time of it just because of the fact that they're not dealing with the extreme conditions to get a bit more wind and things like that. So they're less likely to succumb. Someone actually sent me something this morning. Let me find it. Account on Twitter in the DMs. He sent me a post. I've not actually responded yet. I just read it, I think. Yeah. No, I actually did. So I responded. Kant and Bonaparte hack the heat. Generals must thrive in all climates. I love slang. One of my favorite players. So the most impacted teams are due to the conditions. So one of the lowest is Spain, and one of the highest is actually France. So this is how hot each team could get. So in terms of the contenders, it's only really France, Brazil, in terms of adding cooling breaks. France's games might actually have to consider postponement. The rest of the teams are on a bit of a cooler end, so like some of them are in the middle, whereas Spain are right towards the end. So Spain, Netherlands, Argentina. This has been a perfect storm for a video, by the way. Thank you. I have wonderful source. I have wonderful resources sometimes. So yeah, so if you play in, I've got a little map up now. See, this is great. Obviously, Canada, they're not going to get as hot. This is the median globe temperature, whatever that is. Obviously, on the coast, particularly on the west coast, they're going to find it a lot easier. But in the middle of the country, say games are in Kansas, Dallas, Houston, Atlanta, Miami, even Mexico City. Guadalajara, obviously this is in Mexico, Guadalajara. Like a lot of these places, they're going to be thick and sticky and hot, which is going to really impact how these teams play. Now, obviously, it could swing the other way. How long do I have left? I have 90 seconds. Obviously, it could swing the other way because it could reduce the intensity of the games. So some players could actually less work rate players are more tired. They can take advantage of that. I actually think, what are Portugal's like? This could actually help them. Portugal's are in... What's Portugal's? Okay, Portugal's is actually towards the lower middle end of it, so they're not actually it. So it's actually okay for them, but either way, say if it gets later and you have Portugal getting tired and you have Ronaldo coming off the bench, because I don't think Ronaldo's going to be a full-time starter in this tournament. He wears down and it basically just leads to big negative effects for other teams. So yeah, it should be interesting to see how teams deal with the climate. I really hope it's not too much of a talking point during the tournament, but just naturally it will be, because if you're running around in scorching 30-degree heat, you're sweating buckets, and you have to consider postponement. How does that screw up with the rest of the tournament? How does that impact your preparation? Do teams go in less conditioned? It's already the end of a long season. Should be interesting, and I really like. It's a very interesting wrinkle that I think hasn't actually been covered that much for whatever reason. It was covered far more in Qatar than it has been covered here. So yeah, I hope it doesn't become too much of a point, and cooling breaks, this, that, and the rest of it, and as time for an extra team talk, this could be a very interesting wrinkle just because of how the states are. I imagine they will have things in place to try and counteract it, but it's never going to be apples to apples. That's the timer. So I think that is actually a good jumping off point. So yeah, I will wrap it up there. If you have any other topics, please put it, like, comment, subscribe, whatever. And I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.